How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Season 1, Game 4 of Good Morning, Let's Basketball. My name is Kevin, joined here with Victor and Daniel today. We got a lot of interesting topics to cover today. First off, we're in the full swing of March Madness, one of the best times of year. A lot of fun to watch, a lot of upsets going on. A couple other topics that we're going to cover today range from putting Giannis on a 16 seed and seeing what would happen. A couple of teams are being in an NBA slump, and can Joel Embiid possibly finally take home the MVP this year? So for any returning viewers, thank you for coming back. Any new viewers, welcome to the podcast. So we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into it. Just covering some of the major March Madness games that have happened so far. First off, I don't think we can start talking about March Madness without talking about Purdue losing to Fairleigh Dickinson. It's the second time in the history of March Madness that a 16 seed has came out and actually beat a number 1 seed. I remember when this first happened a couple years ago, the world damn near exploded, and it about happened again just because a lot of people had Purdue in their Final Four and actually finally winning it this year. I thought those people were a little bit crazy, but I'm just going to keep that opinion to myself. And I seen an interesting stat on Instagram right after the game, and it talked about like the height distribution of like 363 college basketball teams. And in that distribution, Purdue actually ranked number 1 for like height, because I think a big major part of that is having a 7'4" center. Yeah. And they all around just had like a really big team. And Fairleigh Dickinson actually ranked last. The average height of all their players on their team was 6'5", which is insane to me for a Division I basketball team. So that's literally David versus Goliath when you put it into those terms.
Hard over.
So I don't know if you guys were watching that game at all, but it was very interesting. The way they were playing the game, it's just, you can tell they wanted to win. And I'm really proud. I hate to sound like a fanboy, but I'm like proud. Like, I love to see upsets like that. I like to see like the lower seed teams advance just because they end up playing a lot harder. And they actually do play Florida Atlantic today, which I'm really excited to watch. And another upset that I wanted to talk about was number 2 seed Arizona losing to 15 seed Princeton. Again, not a lot of 15 seeds beat a lot of 2 seeds in the first round. And Princeton actually won their second round game against 7th-ranked Missouri, and they're moving on to the Sweet 16. So March Madness is already off to an insane start, like it is every single year. And I'm really excited to keep watching. So yeah, is there any games that you guys found really interesting, or any insane games? Or
not like any specific games, but I think it's really funny how I saw a statistic this morning that said that there are 0 existing perfect brackets now. None. And that basically everyone's brackets are like screwed over, which you probably would think that that's because of the Purdue game. Like you said, a lot of people had Purdue in their Final Four. I would not agree with that decision to put them in your Final Four, just because, I mean, not to sound like a Purdue hater, but like I told Kevin last night, like Purdue is a fraud team. Like, they're fraudulent. Now, were they really good this entire year? Yeah, absolutely. Did Zach Edey prove that he's a good big man? Maybe, to some people. But they lost 2 times to Indiana, and Indiana University is a good team, but I wouldn't think that they're going to make it to the Final Four. I mean, I hope they do. That would be insane. But if Purdue has struggled to fend off IU twice this year, to me, it just kind of set them up for failure going into the bigger games. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of upsets coming out of March Madness. To be honest, I don't really watch that much of college basketball, which I should. But it's always fun to, turn on a game. Duke getting beat by Tennessee last night. That was a pretty big upset too, I think. But, the Vols are always in that conversation. So I don't know. They'll probably be good for the March Madness. IU versus Miami today. That's a big game for us here in Bloomington. We're big fans of Indiana University's basketball team. But yeah, we'll just have to see how they play today. I'm not really sure about the matchup, but our team looks like they're playing really well. So hopefully they can carry it on into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I thought it was like I'm glad I didn't bet with you guys and who would go further. I'm glad we didn't make any bet because Purdue lost. So, but that was kind of a funny loss because the coach for FDU, he was like, the more I watch the Boilers, I think we can beat them, and then they proved to beat them, and it was kind of a great win for them, and it was historic as well. And a lot of people had Purdue going far. I predicted them to go a little bit farther last week. My one of my sleeper picks is doing good. I think UCLA. I'm excited to watch them go a little bit further. They're doing pretty good with Amari Bailey and Jaime.
Yeah, UCLA had a pretty good game last night against Northwestern. Got a little scary near the end there. Northwestern really caught up and even got ahead at some points. Thank you to Northwestern, though. They won me some money last night. Took that plus 7.5, ended up losing by 5. So props to them. And back to that Duke team, I've said in earlier episodes, big Duke fan. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done against Tennessee. I think they're very deserving of it, though, of that loss. They 100% deserve to lose. They had it seemed like 46 turnovers that game, played like shit. So not at all surprised that they only lost by 13 to this Tennessee team. Tennessee definitely came up to play, showed up to play yesterday. And moving forward with this tournament, we're finishing up the second round today, seeing if IU can hopefully crack the Sweet 16 for the first time. And I don't really know when, but one team that I think, giving my current update on who I think will take home the tournament, I think it's definitely going to be Alabama. They've been just steamrolling these first two rounds right here. First round and there's 64 teams left. They beat Texas A&M CC 96-75, 21-point blowout, never really close. And then yesterday they ended up playing Maryland when it was a close game for a while, but then Alabama kind of just pulled up and got ahead. They beat the 8th ranked Maryland by 22 points, 73-51. Also won me some money yesterday. So we love to see this. So, but one of the teams that I actually had winning in one of my brackets was Kansas, and they got bounced. They got bounced by, I believe it was, they got bounced by Arkansas in the second round in 8 seed, which is crazy. Arkansas is a very interesting team because they are an 8 seed, but they have 3 NBA prospects projected to go into the first round.
Damn.
So the talent is there for this team. Hopefully that they can continue to keep playing well as a team, because seeing this team go far would be really cool. They are in the Sweet 16, and they will play the winner of number 4 ranked UConn and number 5 ranked St. Mary's. If I had to predict, I would probably guess that they're going to play UConn, but with the way stuff has been going, you'll never know. But yeah, I think Alabama, they're looking as solid and as best as ever. A big major contributor to that is NBA projected lottery pick Brandon Miller. He's projected to go into the top 3 or top 4. Dude's just been hooping, like no other way to put it. And also coming off the bench for them, former Jelly fan member Javon Quinterly has been going insane. Coming off the bench, he's been averaging close to 10 points, but last night he actually had 22 off the bench. So I definitely see Alabama going to the Final Four. And they do play San Diego State in the Sweet 16, a 5th ranked seed. So that's going to be a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted, I don't know if I have a specific team that I would say is going to win it all. But Houston, they didn't almost lose last night. Facing Auburn, they won, looks like 81-64. But I remember watching that game in the first quarter, early in the first half, and Houston looked human for a little bit, even though they're the number 1 seed and they're supposed to be, kind of the best team in the country. Going into March Madness, would you say Houston was the best team in the country?
They were ranked number 1 overall, I believe, but they took a little hit in their projections because their starting point guard got hurt, and they don't currently have him. So they're still playing well. They were down 10.5 yesterday, but they came back and actually showed some adversity and won. So that was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what you're supposed to do if you're a good basketball program, and if you're ranked number 1, you're supposed to, maybe have a fight with some of these smaller teams. Not that Auburn's a smaller team, but rank wise, they are. You're supposed to be able to beat these teams towards the end of the stretch, which is exactly what Houston did. But if anything, to me, it kind of proves that Houston is beatable. And a lot of these smaller teams that are coming into the Sweet 16 and so on and so forth, I think should, be confident in their approach to face Houston. I think the winner of the Indiana versus Miami game is actually set to face Houston.
Yep.
So that could fall on us to try to basically have a Cinderella story. And if we can beat out Miami and beat out Houston as well, that would put us in a really good position. Not saying that that's going to happen, but again, it's possible. It doesn't sound like the furthest thing from the truth now. But yeah, I don't know.
I watched a little bit of the Purdue and did they play? Who was it? I can't remember. Kent State, and they looked pretty decent. It seemed like they had a little bit of a like they weren't like executing their plays as well at first in the first half. It seems like they ultimately put it together and brought together that win.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting game. Did you mean IU against Kent State?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said Purdue, and I was looking. I knew what you meant
Oh,
though, because when
yeah, my
I know
bad.
we
I
talked
meant
about the
Indiana.
upset, but yeah, no, that was a pretty interesting game. IU, it kind of took them a minute to finally get up further because it seemed like they would always get up by 10 points and get up by 12, but then Kent State would go on a little bit run and cut it down to 5, and then go back up to 12 and back to a 5-point lead. So it's good to see that they finally kind of got the hang of it and finally put them in the dirt. But yeah, that game was really good. Trace Jackson Davis actually had a very good game. Hopefully he can continue to play well. He was first team All-American this year. A lot of people have him going in the early first round draft pick, so hopefully he can keep it up. Also, Jalen Hood-Schifino, he played pretty well against Kent State. Didn't have the best scoring night, but he was distributing very well. One thing I noticed, he had a lot of assists, and he looked comfortable, which is like I think is the most important thing, especially for an 18-year-old freshman. A lot of times teams that have like a lot of freshmen, they're obviously not as experienced. And he looked pretty comfortable out there. He was getting to his spots, that mid-range pull-up that he likes to do. He's distributing well. Shots weren't falling as much as I'd like them to, but it's a good sign that he's out there and he looks comfortable. He didn't look very shook at all by the defense and what else was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think going into these next few games, if IU wants to win big in the tournament, it like we talked about last week, it's all going to come down to confidence level. Having that confidence to say, hey, we can beat these bigger teams. We can beat number one Houston. We can beat Miami. So it's all going to come down to just how much Indiana University wants it, obviously, just like every March Madness team, but also how much they're able to control their emotions if they get to the big stage, which I hope they do. But I personally, do you think either of you that, well, I guess Victor, you wouldn't know, but like Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson, I would say, are probably going to be two of the biggest standout players of this tournament for Indiana University. How much of an improvement in stock value, or no, what's it called? Draft value. Yeah, draft value. Do you think that both of those guys would get if IU were able to make it to the Sweet 16 or further?
I think it would definitely help them out a lot. March Madness and this tournament is like a great time for prospects to really show that they're worthy. And a lot of players in the past have increased their draft stock solely just from playing well in March Madness. Some people even playing well in just one game. Perfect example of this actually was on the Warriors, Dante DiVincenzo, when he was in college at Villanova and they beat Michigan in the Final Four championship. That whole season, DiVincenzo came off the bench for that Villanova team, and he only averaged 8 points. But during the championship game, he came off the bench and he scored 33 points and ultimately won Villanova that game. And he was making plays all over the floor. He was scoring off the dribble. He was catching and shooting. He was distributing well. He blocked a 7-foot center's dunk. And then the draft comes around. This guy was on no one's draft board just because, he was just a regular bench player that averaged 8 points. He went 15th to the Bucks.
That's crazy.
Because they saw that, this guy played at the highest level and he actually put on a show.
Yeah.
And look at DiVincenzo now. He's a role player on the Golden State Warriors and was a role player for the Milwaukee Bucks for a while. So this time of year is definitely great for players that really want to raise their draft value. It could also decrease their draft value too, because you can really showcase that you can play at a high level,
Yeah.
one of the highest levels with a lot of stake on the line, and you can really just get the proof to teams that you're a winner.
Yeah. Well, like you said too, and you like you said, you can also negatively affect. What kind of hit do you think Zach Edey from Purdue, the center that's 7 foot, suppose he was very well hyped for good reason. I mean, he's a 7 footer, he's got decent footwork and all this other stuff, but now I think a lot of people from what I saw were kind of trashing on him, saying, I saw one comment that said, oh, I guess this means that if I'm 7 foot, can drink water and eat food, then I could be in a D1 basketball team. But obviously that's not true. But yeah, I mean, I would think that Zach Edey might have taken a little bit of a hit to his draft value, going into March Madness, and now they're out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know where people had him going in the draft. I don't know if first round was in his future, but I think he could have definitely gone second round. Personally, if I was an NBA GM, I just wouldn't draft Zach Edey just because the way he's a good college player, very dominant college player, but NBA is a completely different game. So honestly, I'm not too sure. It's a very good question. Oh, I think a team will definitely pick him up still, just because why not? He's 7'4".
Yeah, you have to.
He knows how to use his body. It's just can he adapt to that next NBA level?
Yeah,
is the big question for me.
Yeah,
and I mean,
late first round or second round, early second round pick or something like that, probably. I mean, I feel like
Yeah, I think
all
that's definitely.
use like a little bit of height if they're lacking a center or something.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a spot for him in the league for somewhere to go. So moving along, we touched on 16 seeds beating 1 seeds. We'll have a little bit of a fun topic here. So, do you guys think if we were to put Giannis Antetokounmpo on a 16 seed, any of the 4 16 seeds this year in the NCAA tournament, that team would go on and win the NCAA tournament? I think yes, just because it's not like we're putting any just regular NBA player on a 16 seed and just seeing if they can carry and win. We're talking about Giannis, 2-time MVP, NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. He's got it. This is the best player in the world, best basketball player in the world, playing against 18 to 22-year-olds. I think hell yeah, that team would win the freaking NCAA tournament. Just because any team can already win on any given night. Now you add the best player in the NBA on your team. It was just to me, it's kind of I think 100% that Giannis could carry a 16 seed to a championship.
I don't know. I'm a little bit iffy on it. I do think that if you put Giannis on that team, that they'll be 100% more lethal and dominant in the paint area. But then again, you got to think too is like how well is that coaching for that 16 seed team, and how are the players around him going to affect him? And I just think maybe if you put him, I think they could go far. I believe they could go far. I don't know how well they would do against like a number 1 seed or number 2 seed when they get to like a far stage like the Final Four or the championship. But we can only just talk about it. I have no clue how that would play out. What do you think, Daniel?
You know, I think if you were to drop Giannis Antetokounmpo into like the Final Four or the maybe even the Sweet 16, I think for sure. I think if you were to drop Giannis into the Final Four, it's an absolute thing. Into that Final Four, he's comfortable. He's in his kind of his environment of playing in big stages, and not really having to play, basically playing the big teams, the guys that matter. If you put Giannis on the first 4 or round of 32 or anything like that, personally, I think there's too many contributing factors that would lead to him not winning it. Little things like you said, his teammates not distributing him the ball, his teammates distributing only him, and then he gets double or triple team. He also has to make his shots too, right? There's a lot of guys that are down low that are going to be trying to get him to not just destroy the paint. And it's Giannis, so he's still going to probably end up with 30 points. But the question is 30 or 40 points enough to beat out another team? And to me, I think that maybe no. Giannis would legitimately have to put up crazy numbers if he was trying to win that game solely. Now, if he's on a good team that can distribute the ball well and all this other stuff, then yeah, maybe. But it just really depends on like where you put him. And like you said, Vic, we can only talk about it in a situation like this. We have no idea what would happen, but I think I kind of look to the example of like Zion, and Zion is a very unique and specific, player that we'll probably not see another one of him for a while. But in college, he was a big dude, and you have to think that there might be other big dudes in college basketball that could, at the very least, slow down Giannis, because those guys are, guys that potentially could go to the league and are going to have to do it anyway. But
No.
I can feel Kevin disagreeing. What do you think?
Well, it's just because like Giannis is averaging 30 plus in the NBA,
Yeah.
where like the best players in the world. Now, like you just put him up against a team like let's say like a 1 seed like Kansas or Houston.
Yeah.
None of those people have ever guarded anything close to Giannis. They're playing against basically to Giannis, these college kids, they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely see him going in and completely dominating the game. Would they win? I think that's definitely a question. I'm not going to say 100%. Like I said earlier, I think the 16 team would definitely win. Now, their chances of winning, you know damn well that they're a lot greater. Giannis is going to go in there and do his thing against any college level team. Just because also college also has like that very similar like European play style, very team based, clustered. I don't want to say clustered just because like the 3-point shot, obviously, but the 3-point line is a little bit shorter, I think, in college.
Yeah,
I don't know because I know they moved it back a little bit in the recent years. But yeah, like I said, he's definitely going to go in there 40, 50 points. But like you said, the other factors definitely play a part. Are other players going to be able to play well with him? I think so. Hopefully, I think if anything, they're going to rely on him too much. Just
Right.
give him the ball and get the hell out the way. Unfortunately, that's not going to work. I mean, it could if you post up and they just linger on the 3-point line. Because if the college team they're playing against is going to let Giannis go 1-on-1 with a college level player, then it's over pretty much. But like you said, when the double team gets sent right there, maybe he can dish it off. But it's not up to him at that point if the other players hit the shots, make the right cuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fun debate to have.
I think like they really need to just make a celebrity game. Like, why can't 50 Cent or someone just make like a celebrity little game where it's college basketball versus NBA basketball, just so that way we can like stop these conversations, because like at the end of the day, like you said, we can only talk about it. We don't have any real proof, and we have videos of like Pat Beverly in Chicago playing against like, dudes that are obviously pretty good, and Patrick Beverly looks like God compared to them. You know what I mean? So like we know that the skill gap from NBA to like amateur is a huge jump, but I wish that they would prove it. You know what I mean? I wish that they would have like the number one March Madness team face a couple guys in the NBA or something like that. I think that would be a lot of fun, and like I said, it would just kind of answer a lot of these questions about how big. I just want to see that gap. You know what I mean? I think that would be a lot of fun to see NBA players trying their hardest to show college level players that they're not shit, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, there's levels to this and it gets worse.
No, 100%. Giannis, this has been his most dominant season. He's been the most dominant player since Shaq, and he's playing really well this season. He could potentially win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Players are shooting 41% when defended by Giannis this season, the best mark by a defender with 500 plus shots defended. And he's doing this while putting up the first 30, 10, and 5 season on shooting 50% since Wilt. So he's been really dominant this season, and I think he could potentially make the 16 seed team better. There's a lot of factors that go into March Madness and stuff. And he's one of my favorite players to watch. Like, I love watching Giannis play, and his competitiveness and motivation is just amazing to watch. We don't see that a lot nowadays. That's kind of like a lost art. And Giannis also said this, which is I think it's a very great quotes. He's like, "I'm not as talented as Steph. I'm not as talented as KD. I'm fucking desperate on his desire to win more titles." And it just shows you how, like, the player that Giannis is and his motivation for wanting to be great in the NBA and becoming a name that's forever remembered in the NBA. And he was also saying that I fucking work hard as I can because I don't want to lose this shit. And it just fuels his drive more and more. And I just think Giannis is a great player. He's very fun to watch. And I think he's one of the best players that we've seen in the game in these past 2 decades.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Giannis said that because like for me, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Giannis, but if there was any more respect to be given, I guess I would do it now. Just because like it takes a big man to realize that you're in a very competitive league. And I think that this is a time in the league where we've never seen this much talent. Like across the board, every team has a guy that's insanely good, and it's difficult to stand out. You know what I mean? You don't have that many players that are stand out because you've got guys like Jokic, oh my god, I ran out of names very quickly, but Jokic, what's the other Mavericks player? Oh my god, Luka Doncic. You've got a lot of players in this league that are very talented and very good on the ball. And can also lead their teams to wins too. And that's kind of the key factor there. So if Giannis is going to make a playoff run and try to win a championship in the next few years, I'm glad that he kind of acknowledged the fact that it's not going to be easy. Like he may not be a shooter, he may not be the best ball handler, but he's an elite level basketball player in general. So yeah, I mean, when he's facing other people, the likes of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry. I mean, the list goes on of how many talented people are in the league now. But I still think Giannis could beat out all of them. It's all different styles of ball. I mean, Curry's the 3-point line, Katie's the mid range, and Giannis is the down low. That's kind of how I look at the best of kind of what their individual performances.
Yeah, and a
Yeah,
great.
the work ethic for Giannis is,
Oh, my bad. You can go for it.
I was going to touch on like how he spoke on Giannis' work ethic, and you can just see just over the years of him being in the NBA. I mean, when he was a rookie, even in 2014 and 2015, just like how small and skinny he was, the way that he was playing the game of basketball, he was still trying to figure it out compared to what he looks like now. He looks like an Avenger, and he's doing pretty much everything. So the work ethic for Giannis is definitely there, and it's 100% already paid off. I mean, he's already an NBA champion. He already has 2 MVPs, Finals MVP, Defense Player of the Year. His resume is already insane at the age of 28, and technically speaking, he's just now entering his prime, which is who knows what can happen these next 4 seasons. Possibly win 2 or 3 more championships. I think more championships are definitely in Giannis's future with Milwaukee too. I don't ever really see him leaving Milwaukee. I think his heart is definitely there. If he were to ever team up with anybody else, I would like for it to be someone like Dame Lillard, because Dame Lillard also expressed interest in the past of teaming up with Giannis, and I think that would be cool. Hopefully before he gets too old, because Lillard's already up there in age. He's 34. But yeah, like you said earlier, Giannis knows he's not as skilled as KD and Steph. And we've heard other players kind of discredit Giannis in the past. A couple years ago, James Harden said, I wish I could be 7 feet tall and just run and dunk. That takes no skill. But what it does take skill to do, James Harden, is win an NBA championship, especially being down 2-0. Yeah. So, yeah, eat your words.
How can you even say that too? Like, I don't know. That's just such a not a cop out, but like that's just such a stupid thing to say.
It's discrediting.
Yeah, it's like that's like discrediting Shaq. Like, oh yeah, Shaq was just a boulder, and like you can make that argument of like, oh yeah, Shaq didn't have any real ball handling skill, but he's still the most dominant big man basketball player we've ever seen up until this day. So no, that and the thing with any sport for that matter, everybody plays their role. You know what I mean? Like you have your shooters, you have your guys that rebound, you have your guys that are really good on the post and that can set screens and that are really good ball handlers, distributors. You've got an individual assignment for everyone on that court. And just because one guy is doing his assignment at the absolute best does not mean that he's playing the game any differently than you are. The only difference is that on the Rockets or wherever James Harden was at the point that he said that, at that point, he was just the best shooting guard on their team. And again, if you can be proficient in your assignment, then yeah, you're going to make all the shots and you're going to do all this stuff. But the only difference of that compared to the Bucks being so good was that they had a really good power forward. There's no difference there. I don't know. That's stupid. I didn't know James Harden said that.
Yeah, they had a
That's a
little
while
bit of
ago.
beef going on and stuff. But Daniel, you made a good point. This has probably been, I talked about it with Kevin a while back. I don't know if you remember. This has probably been one of the statistically the best season the NBA has had. There's so many players averaging 30 points per game, and we've never seen this. I think there was like 7 plus, right? Do you guys know?
At one point, there was 7 players averaging 30
Yeah.
points, which is like that in recent years has never been more than like 2 or 3.
Yeah, so it's been insane. It's been a great season to watch. There's so many players doing well, and it's hard to argue who would win MVP because a lot of these players are having MVP seasons. Putting up 30 points per game is insane. And I just want to say this Bucks team, they've been doing really well. They're the first team to reach 50 wins this season, and 17 out of the 22 teams who got 50 wins first went to win the title since 1984. So potentially this could be another championship for the Bucks. And I think if Giannis continues to keep getting rings, that he could finish as a top 5 player to ever play the game potentially. I think the talent's there, the drive's there. He just needs the rings, right? And I thought it was a great story too. I don't know if you guys saw it with Bobby Portis. He went on JJ Redick's podcast and he was saying how he joined the Bucks. Did you guys ever see that story at all?
I have not, no.
Who was it again?
Bobby Portis.
Oh no, I haven't seen anything about that now.
So he was a free agent and basically he was calling his agent and he was trying to figure out a team to go to and his agent was like he's like, we can get you paid good, really good here. And he was like watching the Bucks and he was like, I really think I could help this team win. And his agent was like, why Milwaukee? And he's like, what about the Bucks? Like he just kept mentioning the Bucks and his agent kept pushing it off. And he was like, finally, like he was like, give me Giannis's number. And so he got Giannis's number and he called Giannis and they talked and he was like, I really think I could help you guys win the title. And they went on to win the title that year. So it's just kind of a great story how he kind of chose the team he wanted to play for instead of a team like asking him to sign there.
That's a pretty interesting story. I never heard that. And Bobby Portis did actually play a tremendous role for that Bucks team. I mean, he was out there, he was hitting threes like no other, getting rebounds. He's an energizer. So yeah, Bobby Portis definitely did help that team out a lot. That's a pretty interesting story, though. Big fan of the JJ Redick podcast too. He does get a lot of good stories on that. But moving on the topics of unicorns. Speaking on Victor Wembanyama, we're getting very close to the NBA debut of him. Still can't wait. It's all we can talk about right now. And unfortunately, all we can do is talk about it. But would you guys trade your favorite team's first and third best player in order for next year's #1 pick, which in hindsight, Victor Wembanyama?
Say it again. So first and third round.
Your team's first and third best player for next year's #1 pick, which would be Victor.
I'm doing 100%. So
as Bulls fans, I think we're definitely going to think alike 100%. I would trade Zach LaVine and Vucevic, I guess, for Victor Wembanyama. This team's already down in the dirt. They're 10th in the Eastern Conference. Although the other night, DeRozan had 49 and LaVine had 39, which is the highest scoring combination for Bulls franchise history in a single game. Yet they still went to double overtime and still almost lost. So I have no problem doing that. I would love to do it. Just kind of looking towards the future, just because this Bulls team currently right now has no future. Now I can't speak for other teams like say Milwaukee Bucks. I definitely don't think that they would do that, or Boston Celtics. But as a Bulls fan, 100%, I will take that deal, like no question.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a Bulls fan or any fan of a team that's not doing phenomenal right now, or that's not in the conversation of, so like let's just name them, right? Like Lakers, Lakers you're not trading, Mavs you're not trading, Suns you're not trading, and probably Bucks you're not trading. Also
Nuggets
Celtics, like
too.
you said. Who Nuggets too.
76ers.
Yeah. But so yeah, there's a lot of teams where you wouldn't do that, because trading away your two best players just to take a risk on this Victor guy, I don't think that it would be the smartest choice. Now again, yes, absolutely, if we're Bulls fans, you're definitely making that trade, because at the very least you're bringing attention to your team too, right? Other NBA players that are at the high level are going to say, I want to play with that guy, I want to play in Chicago now because Victor Wembanyama is in that city. So yeah, I mean, at the very least, even if he does become nothing in the NBA, which is very unlikely, you at least still bring attention to the organization, and at the very least, hopefully, people would want to transfer there and get traded there and stuff like that to play with him.
No, for sure. And I think as a Bulls fan too, right? With this, we haven't been doing good. And with this Delonzo injury update too, he's going to be out till 2024. And it's just sad to see. You hate to see players get injured and be out this long. I hope a speedy recovery for him, and I hope he gets back to the form he was at, because he was playing great. You know, he was starting to become that player that everybody wanted to see, that LeVar Ball was saying was good. And he was starting to do really good. He fixed his shot. He was playing very well on defense. It was just sad to see that he got this injury and the Bulls started to fall down as well.
Yeah, that update on Lonzo Ball's situation the other day kind of was a punch in the face for me, just because I've been a big Lonzo Ball fan for a minute. And when he came to Chicago, I was really excited just because, like I said in earlier episodes, he's everything you wanted a point guard. Last season for the Bulls, when the Bulls were playing very well, he was shooting at one point over 50% from three. So,
I just started smiling, and then Victor started smiling too, so I
Yeah.
started laughing.
but
I
yeah, no,
don't
he
know
was,
what you were laughing at.
but no, he played pretty well last season. So it does suck to see him not be able to go out there and play, especially it being damn near, if he's out next season, 2.5 years without playing basketball. But we're also seeing the same thing happen with LaMelo too. Honestly, I mean, he's hurt. He's out for the season with that ankle injury. I think it was actually the third or fourth time he actually hurt that same ankle this year. So yeah, things aren't looking too good for the Ball brothers right now. Just injury wise, LiAngelo still trying to get into the NBA. Hopefully now he can get an opportunity.
That'd be nice.
But yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, Lonzo Ball being out again, it sucks. It sucks for Chicago.
Do you guys think that? What do you guys think that this means for Alonso's career in total? Because we often see players coming back from injury. It's the age old what's it called, comment that people have about NBA players, that they just never come back the same after an injury like this. So yeah, I mean, 2 years out of the league, out of playing professional ball. Do you guys think that this permanently affects him the way that it's affected other players in the past?
Yeah. We still don't even know if he's ever going to play again.
Jeez,
They
that's
said
crazy.
this surgery that he's going to go under next, it said it should completely save his basketball career. Like big quotations on the should.
Mhm.
I mean, like we've known, like the doctors have never seen anything like this. He can't even run or jump. He probably hasn't in months, years, or not years, but like a year. He probably hasn't fully sprinted or fully jumped. So yeah, I mean, it's scary to think about. Like they literally have no idea what's wrong, why that pain is lingering. Hopefully they can get to the bottom of it. But if he were to make a full recovery, I think it would definitely make some impact for a minute. Like, when we saw Klay Thompson be out for a while, it took him about, a couple months to get back into the full swing of an NBA game. I don't see why Lonzo wouldn't have to do the same thing,
Mhm.
especially with his role out there for the team. He's a distributor, he's a defender. I think it could affect him a lot on the defensive end
Hmm.
because being able to play defense, you got to be able to get low and be able to shuffle and slide. So I think it could permanently affect his defense, but offensive end, I think he'd be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say too, there's just a lot of players, they deal with different injuries, and how that's going to affect them coming back from that. We don't know. We don't know the recovery process they're going through or the training that they're going through with the injury. So just time will tell. We'll see what Lonzo. Hopefully he comes back the same, or at least it will take him a little bit to get back to the same. I hope he doesn't. Um, I hope this doesn't affect his career, and he manages to get better from this, and ultimately becomes a good point guard and helps his Bulls team win.
Yeah, you know what's kind of, I think, one of the most frustrating things about this situation for me is that out of the three Ball brothers, LiAngelo is probably one of the nicer ones, but Lonzo's by far, I think, the most like humble and nicest one that we've seen, at least on camera. He was never really like the loud guy that was talking trash or, talking about how good he was or anything like that. LaMelo was, which I love watching LaMelo play because he really does play as if he never left AAU. And it's really fun to watch. He does a lot of flashy things, and it's incredible to watch a player so young have so much confidence on the court. But it's also somewhat annoying sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you see him talking trash or doing his whole thing, and maybe I'm kind of combining everything from his past when he was younger to his NBA career today now too. But yeah, it specifically sucks that the Ball brother to get the worst of it is the one that like did everything right. You know what I mean? Like he went to UCLA, he performed well, was never the guy that was outspoken or loud, just wanted to go in, play ball, and he did that. Even with the Bulls, he showed out and he showed that he deserved to be in the NBA. And for now this to happen, like it just sucks that that's the Ball brother that it happened to. You know what I mean? Then again, I really think that LiAngelo Ball has something to offer the NBA, and I think that they should add him to a roster spot somewhere. Honestly, especially now with both Ball brothers being out of play. If you're what's his name, LeVar, I think you're trying everything in your power as you have been to try to get LiAngelo some name right. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
had
Hopefully we can see Angelo in the NBA. I mean, I think he's definitely good enough to play in the league. He's a great shooter. He can definitely play that 3-and-D role, which already makes you valuable to an NBA team, being a shooter and being able to play defense. So, I mean, to me, there's no way LiAngelo Ball can be worse than Ken Bazemore. So I don't like or players like that. So I think he can definitely play for a team.
for sure. I mean, he's had his opportunities. I think with the Pistons was his most recent team, right?
I was with the Pistons, yeah. I don't know how he can't play on the Pistons, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. There has to be something more to it, something more that we don't know. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think that was his second team he's tried out for, a third maybe. And it's just, I don't know. Maybe we'll see him in the future one day, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, man. We can only hope now. But this team has always found our ways into our podcast the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That is the Memphis Grizzlies. These always find their way in our episodes, always find ways to talk about them, but they're fun to talk about. So the Grizzlies have actually come out and said that they're going to leave road cities immediately after games. To me, don't hate this at all. They don't know how to act, plain and simple. I think it could definitely help them a lot, leaving immediately after road games. No one can go to the club, do some stupid shit. Unfortunately, it sucks that it does have to come down to this, but if this is what they have to do to make sure that everyone stays in checks and misbehaves, then screw it. This is what you got to do. Yeah, I don't really.
I don't know. I mean, I think
always find their way.
Yeah, like you said, it's good that they found a solution to keeping their players out of trouble. But like you said, you shouldn't have to do that. These are all guys that are over the age of 20, 23 probably at this point. They're all adults. They all got probably like wives, houses, kids, all this other stuff. They're not teenagers. You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if like not even our college town has that issue where they're leaving other college towns before coming back home off of fear that their athletes are going to be doing stupid stuff. It's really just a slap in the face to everyone on that team that is responsible enough to handle themselves. And outside of John Morant, is there anybody else like doing anything outside of the Grizzlies?
I don't know. They listen to
I'm
Young
sure
Boy heavy. I know
that
Danny.
could have some influence.
No,
That could have some
I,
influence.
I
That
know
could, yeah.
because Danny Green was like, he's like, I never heard of him until I played for the Grizzlies, and I thought it was funny because they listened to him heavy, and just John Morant apologized, and he said that that's not who he is, and he knows better. But then again, the situation is a little bit embarrassing that they have to kind of treat the Grizzlies, these grown men, as little kids, and immediately leave a road city after a win, or I mean after a game. And do you guys think that this could potentially, if they continue to do this in the future, like they implement this in the next season, do you think this could sway away from free agents wanting to go to Memphis?
It very much possibly could. I mean, they're definitely not a favorite right now in the league, kind of taking on that villain role.
Mm-hmm.
But
Trash villain too. Not even a good villain. Not
yeah,
even the kind
just
of villain that like makes you go 1 for 1 in the playoffs or
right,
something.
just like a very mid villain.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, it definitely could play an impact on players wanting to go there. I mean, it seems like every game they have something goes on between the opposing team. So I don't imagine much people really want to go to Memphis at this current moment, especially and we saw the thing with John Morant. They suspended him 8 games without pay for whenever he comes back from wherever he is, which who knows how long that could be. He could still be there around the time playoffs start, but he still gets that 8 game suspension post, and he hasn't been practicing. So John Morant could be out. John Morant could be out for a minute. He hasn't been practicing. Obviously, he's still at that conflict center or wherever the hell they got him locked up. On top of that, he also has the 8 game suspension. So the Grizzlies can definitely take a big hit from this. On top of this, they're not getting any rest time after road games because now they have to leave right away. So
That's a
it
good
seems
point.
they're always going to be traveling after
Yeah.
the game. And say if they finally get some time off, they maybe get a day to relax. Nope, you got to get on the airplane because you guys don't know how to act.
Yeah.
So I could definitely play with them, getting proper rest, always being on the road, and it could definitely drop their seeding for the playoffs. I don't currently know where they rank. Can look it up real quick, but right now they're third in the West, and the next fourth is the Phoenix Suns. They're 5 games behind, so I think they're decently safe. That's comfortable breathing room, but you don't want to be third; you want to be first.
I think I don't know. I think yeah, to your point, Vic, teams or like players might use that as again a cop out for why they don't want to go to Memphis. Um to me, I think I would have not wanted to go to Memphis period before this happened. And then now that you add this in, yeah, I mean it doesn't really make sense to go there. But at the same time, what I was gonna say is like NBA players, sure they care about being in a city and getting an extra day. But at the same time, I don't think they care that much. They're still millionaires that can go on their private jet and fly to wherever they were just at. And they're not gonna want like they care, but how much do they really care about being in Cleveland, Ohio? You know what I mean? For an extra night? Probably not a lot. That being said, I want to kind of go back to what I said earlier about, John Morant. I don't know. Here's what I wanted to say. I think, if you remember, because you both played high school sports, your coach gets on the bus and he says, like, oh, you guys just had the worst game. We're making little mistakes here and there. This happened, this happened. And meanwhile, you're thinking, I did everything right. Actually, I did all my shit. The person that didn't do his shit is little annoying ass Timmy Blueface or something over there sitting at the back of the bus that's not saying anything that cost us 3 turnovers in the last minute. You know what I mean? So here's what I want to know. Does this affect the overall morale of the team and their view towards John Morant? Because that does affect how players play well with each other. You know what I mean? We see it happen all the time where a player causes issues for the team, or just has an issue with another player on the team, and then suddenly it's brought into question, hey, do they need to be traded out of this city? We saw it with the Draymond Green and Jordan Poole issue, which honestly, looking back, I mean, I wouldn't have blamed them if they would have traded away one of those guys, because yeah, you have conflict within your team, you're not going to win any games. So again, going back to my last point of, is John Morant the only one that's doing these things outside of the game? Right? Is there anybody else on that team that's going out and partying at strip clubs and bars and stuff like that? And is the whole team getting reprimanded for that? Or is John Morant the baby of the team and everyone's just having to basically take on the punishment because of him? So what do you guys think in the future this means for the general morale of the Grizzlies towards John Morant? Do you think they're still going to hold him up as their boy, or do you think that this changes things?
I think they definitely have his back for now. I mean, he made a stupid mistake. I think right now they're definitely going to have his back. But going back to that team meeting that they had the night of the strip club incident, when Steven Adams said we need to be careful with going out on away games, and then later that night, John Morant went out and was acting a damn fool. So I think some players maybe agreed with Steven Adams, some of like the older veterans, and definitely felt some type of disrespect because he still went out and he was still being an idiot.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's definitely teammates that do go out on away games. I mean, they definitely do. Some of these are young men. Like you said, they're going to go out, they're going to have fun. They're in their 20s. They got more money they could ever imagine. Shit's going to happen. But I think if John Morant doesn't clean up his act, then some players it could cause some chemistry issues. It doesn't seem that they have any real chemistry issues right now. They're a really tight-knit group, of guys.
Yeah.
They all have each other's back. So I think right now they should be fine just as long as everyone behaves and listens to the older veterans pretty much.
Yeah.
Listen to the coaches.
I like Steven Adams a lot. I'm glad that he stepped in and said something to the team. I just wish John Morant would have listened. Of course, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think this is going to affect them at all. I mean, I think if it continues to happen, then we can see some chemistry issues or this team not doing well together anymore. But right now they're still playing pretty good. They just beat the Warriors, I think. And if John Morant doesn't make an all NBA team this year, he could lose out on 20 million.
That's crazy.
I did see that. He could definitely take a very big pay hit. And
well deserved.
Hopefully that teaches him more. It's like, oh shit, like I just missed out on $20 million. Like that's not anything to take lightly. Any amount, and losing any amount of money sucks.
Yeah.
Whether it's $5 or 20 million. I mean, I'd rather lose $5 than 20 million. But like $20 million, that's life-changing money right there. Like who knows? He could definitely use that in the future. On top of the money he's earning right now.
It's really crazy to be acting like you're about it, or like you're from the hood when you're making $20 million off of a freaking bonus for the year. $20 million, not an NBA contract, a bonus. Like that's disgusting. You know, that's a disgusting amount of money, and you're throwing that all away. Not throwing it all away, but you're just, like you said, acting a fool, trying to be something that you're not. That just really blows my mind. I did not know that. I mean, I knew that he was getting the money taken away if he didn't make the all-pro team or whatever.
Yeah, it's part of the incentive.
Yeah, but that's just crazy to me. You know?
No, it's the amount of money these players make is no joke.
No, it is not.
No, it's insane to me.
And up until this point, I think we've been like, I don't know, because like we don't really talk about the bonuses that much, do we? We talk about, max contracts here and there, things like that. But it's not too often that the players' yearly bonuses are brought into question as like, did they make the all-star team? Did they do this? Did they do that? But when you start to notice all of that, you're like, oh, shoot, these guys are making money hand over fist. And all they have to do is just be responsible and be good human beings. And for a lot of them, that's hard, I guess, or for some specifically.
Yeah, the incentives are really fun to like keep track of. Just seeing like a player like, oh, if they do this, they'll get this extra money.
Yeah,
I know it's really popular around the end of the NFL season. Like if a certain player, like it'll be like the very last game of the season, it's like, oh, this player needs 30 more rushing yards to get 500K.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to see them like keep track of that and like seeing those players like go out there because obviously like they're gonna want that money. Like it was a part of their contract. They agreed to it. They thought it was very attainable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is a lot of fun to keep track of and see.
Yeah, it kind of motivates the players too.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, it's more money on top of the money that they're already making. End of the day, it is a business. Like this is their job. It pays their bills. It's how they keep their family in check, the people around them in check.
Yeah.
So it is fun to keep track of. Um, as we're nearing the end of the season, we start thinking a lot about awards, who's going to take home what. And this MVP award, it's just there's no clear-cut winner, and there hasn't been one all year. Even last year, there was never really a clear-cut winner. But one player that recently claimed the throne and the number one power rankings to win MVP has been Joel Embiid. Now, it's also been the same thing the past 2 years about him finally getting MVP. So, do you guys think that this can finally be the year that Joel Embiid takes home the MVP award?
I definitely think it's deserving. He's been playing his ass off, right? I think the last 9 games, let me pull it up. He's been going insane, shooting over 50% every game, and he's had 31 plus points in every game. He's just been going crazy, and he's definitely deserving of it. He's been trying to get an MVP and having this Sixers team get a championship as well. And I definitely think that this could be his year. I think Jokic could get the MVP voter fatigue as well. The voters not voting for him because he's won it 2 times in a row. If he wins it 3 times, that'll be insane. I think the world would go crazy if he won it 3 times. But I definitely think this is Embiid's year. If he continues to play like this, definitely his year. He's been putting up insane stats. And I think the NBA also is going to introduce a rule next year where that you have to play a certain amount of games to win MVP. So because they didn't want the load management to play a factor into it.
Yeah, I do like that they're doing that. I think it definitely makes sense that the amount of games that you play should definitely contribute to you winning an award, especially the MVP award to, most valuable player. Are they able to sustainably play a full season?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these guys like Joel Embiid, Giannis, and let's say Jokic, they are around the whole season, and that's why they're always in the conversation. But back to what you were saying about Embiid, hopefully keep putting up these stats. Another major factor is the team play. The Sixers are currently second in the Eastern Conference, 48-22, which actually is the second best record in the NBA. So his team is winning. They're contenders. That they very much could win the finals this year. Doubt it. Don't think so. But if you got a guy on the team that's playing at that high of a level, and he has been the past 2 or 3 years, and his team's winning, shit, why not win the MVP? And Giannis, the Bucks are still first. I don't think Giannis is putting up as great stats as Joel Embiid right now, but it's still very close. But I think this could definitely be the year that Joel Embiid does finally take home the MVP. And if he doesn't, well, goddamn, we're gonna hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, the situation with Joel Embiid, I think, is he well deserving of an MVP? Absolutely. But I also think that there are a lot of guys in the NBA right now that are well deserving of an MVP. We had always seen that conversation of, oh, well, why does LeBron James not have 15 MVPs or whatever? It's like, well, because you can't give it to the same guy every year. You know what I mean? Like, was LeBron James for a while the most valuable player in basketball? Yes, absolutely. But are they going to give it to him every year? No. Right. That being said, I think it's a difficult conversation to have if you're Joel Embiid, because at the end of the day, you still have to come down to the you still have to bring your conversation back to the point of, who are the other 2 guys ahead of me right now? Jokic and Giannis. Where are their teams? Number 1 and number 1 in their respective divisions. So, and I'm number 2. Is Joel Embiid putting up better personal numbers than both of them? In the case of Giannis, yes. But these are all things that come into factor. What I don't like really saying who's going to win MVP, honestly, because I think that that's open for discussion. They could put out a name and I would be like, absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. Like, if they put up Giannis, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. If they put up Jokic winning 3 times, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But when it comes to, what was I going to say? Embiid, do you guys think that it would be fun for the NBA, or maybe better for the NBA, if they added more MVPs, maybe like a MVP first team, right? Or an MVP starting 5, the 5 best players in basketball during that year. And the reason why I say that maybe that's a potential thing that could be good is because in a day and age of basketball where you guys said how many players were averaging 37?
At one point, there were seven.
There were
players.
7 players averaging 30. And you could bring into question, is the defense still as good as it was 10 years ago? Is that why there's players shooting as much as they are now? But overall, I think it would be good for basketball if you introduce the idea of maybe more than one MVP. And I think they have said that before, like a shared MVP or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, because I could see a 3-way stalemate between Giannis, Joel Embiid, and Jokic.
Yeah, well, they already kind of do have something like the All NBA first, second, and third team. It kind of does acknowledge like the top 5 players. Well, top 15 actually, because they have 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the All NBA first team. I feel like not a lot of players like really pay attention. I don't really pay attention to the All NBA teams. I mean, it makes sense, and people do like bring it up whenever like they talk about a player's like legacy and where they rank here on all-time lists or whatever. But like you said, the awards thing, they did add the conference finals MVPs this year. Last year, Tatum took it home for the Celtics for the East, and Curry took it home for the Warriors for the West. So it's kind of cool that they're adding more awards like that. But yeah, I don't think players should really get too butthurt about not winning an MVP. So at the same time, like a lot of players, like they talk about accolades, and a lot of people focus like when they talk about how great a player is, they'll focus on their accolades, how many rings they won, how many points they averaged. You're never going to get very many people that agree on the same things when discussing things like this. And we saw Damian Lillard talk about this on the JJ Redick's Old Man at 3 podcast, is he doesn't like how where the NBA is going directionally about ring culture. I mean, if you had a ring, you wouldn't have to worry about it, in my opinion. But who am I to judge? I don't have a ring. But I think having a ring, to me, rings, I think they matter to a point.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have 8 rings. You don't have to have 3 or 4. But if you have 0, it kind of shows that you weren't the greatest winner. Yeah, you're putting up these great 3-point numbers and these points and these rebounds, and you brought your team to the playoffs this many years in a row. You were this seed. What happened after that, though?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't win a championship? Oh, you're just out there hooping.
Yeah.
And a lot of players go out there and put up great stats, but they don't win rings. And for me, that separates great players from all-time great players.
Yeah. And who did you say said that?
Damian Lillard.
Ring? So the thing with Damian Lillard, though, too, is that, like, yeah, he's a phenomenal player, but, like, it's not like we don't acknowledge the players that have gotten close to a championship or only have won one, and they're still in the conversation. Perfect example is Dirk. Only won a championship one time, but immediately put himself within the top 10, like all time. So, we obviously are not just ring chasing as fans and not just looking for who has the most rings and stuff like that. But like you said, who was able to win against all odds, who was able to take their team to that final game and win it. So yeah, if Damian Lillard wants the title of one of the best point guards to ever play the game, he needs to win a ring. That's just my personal opinion. There's no way that he doesn't win a ring and is mentioned in that top 5 going forward in NBA's future.
Well, I don't think we're gonna forget about Damian Lillard either. I think he made NBA All 75, right?
He did make the list.
That's crazy.
Somehow.
I didn't know that.
So, I mean, I don't think he's gonna be one of these players that we forget. He's a phenomenal scorer and everything. But just back to your question, Daniel. I think if the NBA did like a shared award or multiple MVPs in a regular season, I think it would be a joke. I think it'd take away from the competitiveness. I believe in, like, if you're not first, you're last. I think if these players just got, like, if everybody got an MVP, why the hell would, like, you play for the regular season, right?
Yeah.
And it would just take away from the game so much, I think. And I don't know. I think it's just like more of a motivational factor if like only one person's getting it, and if you don't win it, if Joel Embiid wins it this year, he deserved it, right? And if someone else thought that they should have won it, it would motivate them more for the next season to win it. So
yeah, no, I like your point. I mean, it's all very subjective. Whoever you follow, that's who you're gonna root for. And the moment that they get announced as not the MVP or the MVP, you'll be happy or you'll be furious. So Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think the stalemate between the MVP race is so tight that you could give it to any of these guys, and people should not be bent out of shape over it. You have to respect the league and what they're looking at, and I hope that they'll make the best decision, even if that is giving Nikola Jokic his third MVP, which is pretty. I don't know. I think that's pretty likely. I mean, you're sitting number one in the hardest division because it's one thing to be number one in the East. It's another thing to be number one in the West right now. You know what I mean? So if they hold that out until the playoffs, you got to start asking yourself: Is Nikola Jokic the clear answer for the MVP race? To me, at least.
No, I mean, 100%. It's kind of hard to. I think this is probably the hardest MVP season to give to someone this year. There's so many players playing out of their mind. Like I said, like the 7 players averaging 30 points per game. We've never seen this in the NBA before. This is just crazy. So it's just who knows what the NBA is going to do and who's going to keep fire for the season. We'll just have to see once the season comes to an end.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's just so many players deserving of the MVP. I mean, it's been like that the past 3 years. And we have Giannis and Jokic that are each two-time winners, and then we have Embiid who has yet to win it. So yeah, it would be cool to see Embiid win the MVP, but like I said, there's just so many players that are deserving. And you can't really go wrong with either, like Daniel said earlier. Oh, he got it? Bet. I agree.
Yeah.
This guy got it? Oh shit. Even better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I think the MVP race is definitely down to those three players. I did have Tatum in there at one point, but he's kind of, I don't want to say fallen off, but the Celtics have recently struggled a little bit. And he's just, again, not as performing. He's not performing as great as these other three guys. But back on teams underperforming, we're going to wrap up today's episode with this last segment here. Just touching on recently underperforming teams, Warriors, Celtics, and Heat. All these teams have had success in the past, but recently they've been kind of underperforming. Do you guys think it's a big concern or just a slump? With the Warriors, I'm going to say it's a concern just for them because they've been horrible on the road all year. I saw a stat the other day that they're 8-0 in their last home games, but they're 0-9 in their recent away games. Now, in the playoffs, you have to win at home. You can't lose at home. 100%. Like falling at home, like you have such an advantage. You can't lose at home. But it's also just as important in the playoffs winning on the road, especially if you're a lower seed and you don't have home court advantage. If you can't win on the road, you're not going to win the series. And this has been a thing for the Warriors all season, obviously with the injuries of Stephen Curry. They haven't been playing that great. They lost last night by 16 points to the Grizzlies, gave up like over 130-something points. Not very good. So I think the Warriors, I think it's definitely a concern for them now. Earlier in the season, I would say they started off kind of slow, but now I think it's definitely a concern for them. They're not winning. Hopefully they can fix it. They're a really fun team to watch. Defending NBA champions, you kind of want to see them compete again this year, not get bounced in the first round. But another team, the Celtics, I think is definitely just like a little bit of a slump. They've been playing great all year. I think they're definitely entitled to like hit that one stride of the season where they're a little bit slow, especially when we saw them lose back-to-back games in overtime, one to Cleveland and then one to the New York Knicks about a couple weeks ago when Grant Williams, his head got a little too fat. And he said that he's definitely going to make both those free throws. Yeah, that worked out great, didn't it?
I'm gonna make
But Celtics, they're playing great all year. They have 49 wins, 23 losses. Again, one of those teams that's very close to 50 wins. They have the third best record in the NBA. Great team. They're coached phenomenally. I think it's definitely just a slump for them, especially last season at the All-Star break. They were ranked 7th or 8th in the Eastern Conference, and they actually ended up finishing 2nd and going to the NBA Finals. So they've definitely, it's not their first time facing some type of adversity. I think the Celtics will be okay. And then the Heat, yeah, we can just can that team if I'm gonna be honest.
I was gonna say.
Like they've proven themselves that they weren't fraudulent over the past couple of years. And I'm glad they did. Jimmy Butler's one of my most favorite players. He's been playing pretty good this season. Kyle Lowry, though, I think it's just time for them to pass on him. He's and for right reasons. Like he's up there in age. He's about 38 years old. He's not the same player that he has been the past couple of years. Yeah. They do need just a more younger influence around the team. Get Udonis Haslem out of there. And they did make a move at the All-Star break around that time with acquiring Kevin Love. To be honest, I haven't really been seeing a lot of coverage on the Heat and a lot of news on them. With Tyler Hero, I know he was playing all right this year, but he's not a player that's going to carry you,
Yeah.
especially at this point of the season. So I would say Warriors and Heat concerning a little bit. Celtics, they just kind of just hit like that plateau spot. But yeah, what do you guys think about these teams? And
So, like you said, I mean, we can the Heat. I don't really care much for them. Not that I don't care much for them, but like they'll make their playoff run. You know what I mean? They're currently sitting at, I think, seventh the last time I checked, in the Eastern Conference. So
yeah,
they'll make their run. You know what I mean? They may beat the first team that they face. They may get to the second, third round. We never know what we're gonna see out of the Heat, honestly. Like every year they switch up, do something different. They're either out first round or they're going all the way. So that's the end of that one. The Warriors, I think, here's something that's interesting. I feel like, from my perspective as a fan, the Warriors, it almost seems like are a Showtime team that thinks like they're fans. They don't show up unless it matters, unless it's like a big game or unless it's like the playoffs or the championship. Like I'm almost, and I said this when we first started this podcast, midway through the season, I think, which wasn't long ago. The Warriors, I think, will show up when playoffs come, and I think that they'll once again be a juggernaut when it comes to the tournament area of the NBA. And I don't know. I just like the Warriors a lot. I think they show up when they have to play at home. I think they show up when it's a big game and their legacy and all of that is on the line. I think that that's when they play their best ball. And I think that that's what we'll see going into the playoffs and into the championship. Um and then the other team that you said was Boston. Yeah. Tatum is a fraud. I've been saying this for years. Jaylen Brown is the heart and soul of that team. I'm kind of just messing around. Obviously, I know Tatum is a high level player, but no, I do think that in some of the games that I've seen Tatum play, he's a very I went as far as to tell Victor that he's a stat patter. I think I was like Tatum is a stat padding player, but he's not. He just starts games very well, and then later on in the game, sometimes I feel that he disappears. I feel like he is not the greatest player in the clutch moments and in the later parts of the games. Usually, as a fan, this is when I see Jaylen Brown take over and make those big shots and control that team down to a level where they can win. And that's why the Boston Celtics are such a good team, because they play so well together. And like you said earlier this year, when it comes to having so many guys that are so talented on that team where you can give the rock to pretty much anybody on that Celtics team and they're going to be proficient with the ball. That's something that's special. So yeah, I mean, Boston Celtics will probably make another run at the championship. Personally, I hope that the Warriors beat them out again. Or the Mavericks. I'd like to see either of those teams in the championship game. But yeah, that's my take. What about you, Vic?
Yeah, so I definitely think that the Warriors, I think it's just a little bit of a slump right now. They've been playing terrible on the road, but I think once they're not the West is very stacked up right now, and what I mean by that is like it's very close. Like from the fourth to the probably like ninth, fourth through the 10th seeding, it's very close. It's just a matter of these teams playing well together and coming well together. There's still a little bit of the season left. And I think the Warriors are sitting at seventh. If they get to that sixth seed or if they win in the play-in tournament, I definitely think they can have a chance at going far in the playoffs. But for the Celtics, I do think it's a little bit of a slump right now as well. Jason Tatum's been shooting 4 for 29 from the 3-point line, and he's shooting 14%. And last night he didn't do too well either. Had 4 for 12 from the field goal, and I just think it's a little bit of a slump right now for the Celtics. They're a great team, just haven't been able to put it together as of recent. But I think as the season goes on, they'll continue to play well together like they have been all season. They're a top team in the East. I think they can make a finals run and get back to the finals, or maybe Western Conference Finals. But for the Heat, Yeah, that team's just terrible. I think they've been terrible all
Yeah.
year. They, they're just been, I don't know what happened to that Heat team. Last year they were pretty good. This year they've just been shit. Like Jimmy Butler's been saying, like he's sick of this losing shit. And I don't know if you guys saw that too as a punishment because they lost a game recently. He went into the locker room and started playing Nickelback and sang every single one of the words. So
I see. Yeah, I did see that. He was having his little
Good.
in his feels moment after the game. Do you
he
guys think Jimmy Butler goes anywhere to win a championship? And who do you think he would pair well with? I'm gonna say my pick. Send Jimmy Butler to the Bucks. See what happens. Might as well. The East is already so slim with talent now because of Kyrie and KD and Harden. Well, Harden stayed in the East, but he paired up with Joel Embiid. So now all of the talent is kind of centralized around a few of these teams. Might as well make it Jimmy Butler and Giannis on the same team. See how that plays out. I don't know. I'd like to see that.
That could be a good team for him to go to. Honestly, I'm not really sure. Jimmy Butler's one of those guys that can fit in anywhere.
Yeah,
He competes.
he's a competitor.
And when Jimmy Butler gets to the playoffs, he just turns it up a gear. Like he'll just start playing crazy. He's definitely a guy that can last. He has that longevity throughout the season. I think he could really just go and make an impact anywhere. He's not ball dominant, great defender, great leader. Like there's no question for that. It's just getting the right pieces around him. That Miami Heat team never had too much talent around them.
Yeah.
You know, Bam Adebayo is a great player, but you never know what you're
Kyle
gonna.
Lowry.
You never know what you're gonna. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get with him with Bam Adebayo, especially this season. He's been kind of inconsistent. Great on the defensive end, but offensively, some games he'll put up 22 points. The next game he'll shoot the ball 4 times. That's and we saw that a lot with last year in the playoffs, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals, with Bam just not being aggressive. And he's a great player. I don't know what really got into his head, but that talent was just never really around him in Miami. Like you saw in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler had to turn it up a gear every single game and just straight up carry. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Miami Heat's time is unfortunately coming to an end. It was a lot of fun watching this team play the past 2 or 3 years, and especially with the other players they had like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, undrafted players just playing out of their minds this season. Haven't really just heard too much from them, but yeah,
What do you think, Victor? Do you think Jimmy Butler fits in somewhere else?
I think his best shot at a title was when he was with the Sixers. That team was nasty. I don't know how they didn't pull a championship out of that team. They had a really good roster with Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons. That's when he was playing good. Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and I think it was Josh Richardson at the shooting guard. And I think
yeah.
even think didn't JJ Redick come off the bench?
At that time, I think he might have been retired or he was coming off the bench.
Yeah, something.
Wait, JJ Redick retired for a short stint?
No,
He
no,
is
no.
retired right now.
Oh, he's retired now. So you're
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
At the time.
I thought
Or I think at that point he might have been on the Pelicans. I don't think he was on Philly. I can't remember. That was a couple years ago. But yeah, I do agree. That was definitely his best chance. That was the most talent that he was ever surrounded by. And unfortunately, it didn't work out because Kawhi Leonard had other plans for the Six. But, the Philadelphia 76ers, they chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler to sign and give more money. So very unfortunate, very stupid, because that could have been that Sixers team. You look at that team on paper, like they were sick. They took that Toronto team to 7 games. If they didn't win the finals, if they beat Toronto, who knows? They could have won the championship that very year.
Yeah, no,
So
that team was nasty, man. And I think if Jimmy Butler was there with Harden and Embiid too, I think that would be a pretty good big three as well. I think he'd just play really good with them.
yeah, right now, I think that big three would definitely make some noise. And like you said, the Bucks, I think that would be a pretty good team with Chris Middleton deciding when he plays. Well, he's been injured a lot, but I think he would definitely play very well with Giannis. He would love to play with Giannis.
how
I already know that.
how soon will we be in March Madness Final Four?
The Final Four is the first week of April.
First week of April. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
we're coming up on it quick, man. This one's
Yeah,
fun.
it's a quick time of year,
Well, because
games every damn day, it seems like.
I was gonna say, do you guys want to do like a quick final four picks? Because the next time we do an episode will be right before the first week of April. So I don't know if we'll still be in the Sweet 16 or if we'll be in the Elite Eight, but do you guys want to do that or no? It's up to you guys.
Oh yeah, we can.
All right. Well, seeing as though I don't really know too much about basketball, I kind of want to let Kevin go first.
These brackets real quick. So the final four is April 1st and 3rd. When we film next week, the Elite Eight will be going on. So first off, I'm gonna go Alabama. They're killing it. Like I said, a 1 seed. They're playing like it. They're acting like it. I think they're definitely gonna be one of those teams that makes it. Uh Next, Final Four, I'm gonna go Arkansas. They're an 8 seed. They're playing pretty well. They're playing very well, actually. They have all that NBA talent surrounding them. That's on the opposing side, so maybe those two teams can meet. And then on the same side as Arkansas, ooh, I'm gonna I think I'm gonna say Texas. I think Houston might take an L to Texas in the Elite Eight. I do have Houston making the Elite Eight, but like I said, them missing one of their best players, I think they're definitely gonna take a hit. And Texas is playing very well right now. So I have Alabama, Texas, who else did I say? Arkansas. And then on the other opposing side, I might have to go Marquette. They're playing very well too. They're ranked 2. A lot of people have them going all the way. They play again today. They play Michigan State, ranked 7th seed. So I could be completely wrong, but those are my final four predictions at this very moment.
Victor, do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go Alabama as well. I definitely think they'll be in there. I'm gonna go Tennessee. I'm not gonna go Houston. I'm actually gonna go a different team, but I'm gonna save that one. And then yeah, I think I'm gonna go Texas. So Texas, my picks are Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama, and IU.
All right, for my teams, I'm gonna go UCLA, Alabama, Houston, and I like Marquette.
UCLA can definitely surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
This Final Four. I mean, they're ranked pretty good. Again, they're one of those teams that I really didn't know how good they were. They looked pretty solid last night. Yeah, I think they can definitely make some noise. But Houston, they're a really good team. I love how they play, but I think them missing their starting point guard, I think it definitely will affect them at one point. But then again, they do have a really good all-around team. And yesterday at halftime, they were down 10 points, and they came back and actually just completely dominated the game. So I definitely do see Houston making the Final Four push too.
It would be interesting. I would love to see it, but I'd love to see IU better.
Hey, IU is they definitely can. Like I said, they have the
I really
talent
do.
still.
I actually believe that. You know
No,
what
I
I
do
mean?
too, 100%. They definitely can make it. They have their two guys, and TJD and Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Yeah.
They're two studs, and they have a good team all around them. They have a great coach in Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
At this point, it's just putting it all together.
And like yeah. I don't know. The toughest game for them, I think, it would be that the Final Four. Like going into those last games, like they've never been there before, right? Or they have been, but it was years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean the last time they won was in the 80s.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah. We had a very good episode today. Covered all the topics we wanted to. Thank you guys for coming and listening. Hope to see you all next week and have a good day.